If we want to talk about addressing the root causes, well, that's a different conversation. If we want to talk about maintaining order in a society, all we have to know is that the differences are there. For the purpose of that, we don't need to know where they came from or why they're there. We just have to know that they are there. And then we have to change policy on the basis of that. We have to change our way of thinking based on that. Because, like I said, it is the result of this ideological takeover of the media and academia and this ideology reflected in social status, which is why we have to pretend that we don't know these things and why we have to make bad policy. I would make the analogy, it's almost like, sometimes I'll play a video game with Jaden, my friend, on stream. Now, when I play games with Jaden, we play computer games or video games, he streams them, and I don't, which is a problem because if it's a competitive game, I can see his screen. He's broadcasting his screen for everyone to see on a public stream that anyone can watch. He can't see my screen. Sometimes I watch his stream and I use it to cheat, but he can't know that I'm watching his screen. So I have to act as though I don't know certain information, which handicaps me. I have lots of information at my disposal that would help me, but I have to act as though I don't know it. For a different reason, of course. But it's similar to this. We know, everyone knows, and it's obvious what's going on with BLM. Everybody knows what's going on with women, but we just have to act like we don't. People that know it based on intimate personal experience, based on personal anecdotes, which everyone has, based on books they've read, research they've seen, based on what they see in the news. But we have to pretend that we don't know those things, that we don't believe those things. We have to keep up this charade, which is aspirational, that everybody is completely equal and the differences don't exist, and therefore any disparities are the result of racism, sexism, discrimination, which is wrong, which is morally wrong, of course. So the ideology goes. So if there are disparities, well, something has gone wrong. It's our own human error, naturally. And then when these problems arise, we just have to pretend like we don't know that they're happening. The media doesn't cover them. We don't talk about them. Doesn't fit the narrative. In truth, and this is maybe an important distinction. A lot of people say, they didn't cover this story because it doesn't fit the narrative. It goes deeper than that. The media doesn't have a narrative. The regime has an ideology. It's not about not fitting the narrative, which is very narrow. Maybe the media has a direct, short-term political agenda. The media has an ideology. The media, the society, the regime has an ideology. The whole society, almost de facto, has a certain predisposition to think about certain issues like race and gender and morality. And it is in the service of all of that that the media covers things a certain way. It's not that it doesn't fit the narrative. It doesn't fit your entire worldview. Forget about CNN's liberal agenda. It doesn't fit the liberal ideology which even most conservatives subscribe to. Sure, black crime doesn't fit the narrative of the mainstream media, but it also doesn't fit the ideology of most conservative boomers who believe that all we need to do is give these people a chance. We just need to give these sorry people a chance. We need to give them a helping hand. We got to help them lift themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, they need to have boots for that to happen, right? The point is that this stuff doesn't just go against a narrow political agenda of a certain party or one institution. It goes against the entire governing ideology of the whole society. And the only people that really understand that, the only people that really oppose that are the people on the margins, the true dissidents, the people that don't go to CPAC, people like me, the people that are not invited to testify before Congress, that don't get money from multi-billionaires, right? So that's the problem, and you could see it, and you're seeing it. The society is cracking apart. Something that cannot go on will not go on. The people are not equal. And no matter how hard you try, you can't make them equal. These differences will persist. And if you keep treating the society as though they don't exist, you will have negative consequences arising from that. Arising from this misalignment between how people are and how they're treated. It's as simple as that. Female police officers will continue to accidentally kill people. Female firefighters will kill people. Female Military are going to lose wars on the battlefield. Affirmative action picks on airplanes, engineering jobs, air traffic controllers, and other places are going to get people killed. And it's like, particularly with the black community, it is just like an insult to your intelligence. The way that they portray blacks is like, I don't even know, like they're magical or something, like they're the new chosen people, right? The way that they portray blacks in the media, it's like, seriously, like they're savants, prodigies. It's like when Sheldon Plankton is talking about his extended family. It's like that. And he's like, I have this family of criminal masterminds. And there's a little montage. And then his family shows up and they're all hillbillies. That's what it's like for the black population. Wakanda and, Black Panther and look at these black female gamer of the year, according to whatever that publication was. And look at Barack Obama. This black entrepreneur has a jewelry store on Etsy. And then you go into their community, and it's like, somebody in a wife beater with his pants around his ankles, walking around the neighborhood, right? Then you drive to the south side of Chicago, and it's like, and you look at World Star Hip Hop, you could see some of the scenes that go on there, getting in fights at Disneyland, at the trampoline place, right? I was looking at that the other day, a very old article from, I forget which, it was a gaming publication, and it said, we've announced our 4 gamers of the year, and 3 of them were black women that nobody had ever heard of, and the other was Hassan Piker. And I kept looking at the thumbnail for the article with these 3 black gamers, black female gamers that nobody knows, who suck at video games, and they've all got they nails did, and they hair did, and they got their own style, and I'm thinking, what absolute idiot, what absolute simpleton is looking at this and thinking, you go girls, wow, gaming is not what I expected. Good for them. Wow, did you know that actually gaming is dominated by black women? Yeah, the top 4 top gamers, I just saw this article and whatever. The top 4, it's like, who honestly believes this stuff? Of course that's not true. The best gamers are Asian guys, and everyone knows that. The best gamers, in terms of skill, are Asian men, and maybe the biggest and most entertaining streamers are white men. And everyone knows that. But people are really going to pretend, it's like, well, then, and the way they talk about it on BuzzFeed or some of these other publications, it's like, oh, this diversity is magic. Look at what they're cooking up. We haven't thought of this before. And, Vice does a lot of documentaries like this. They talk about this sort of underground scene in the ghetto. Oh, you can't get this over here. And then you go to the ghetto, and it's like, no, it's actually just a dump. It's actually just a dump. You go to these places, and it's no wonder that nobody wants to live there. It's no wonder that it's totally like hell on earth, because it turns out it's not filled with eclectic performers and personalities and genius savants. No, it's actually not full of people like that. Actually, it's full of people that you see exactly what you'd expect, looting the gas station at 3 a.m. because they can. That's who's living in these neighborhoods. We have to pretend like that's not true. We've got to pretend like, no, that's not a fair characterization. No, it's like what you see on TV. It's like that TV show Blackish. It's like the people that you see on any television show. It's all these sort of smug, gentrified liberals. So, anyway, it's not what you don't already know. We're right. And by the way, this is why America First is inevitable, because this is a charade. It's a farce. Everything that you see, it's frustrating, and it's frustrating because it's a lie. I mean, everything that they tell us, everything that they say, this whole world that's been built up is built on a lie. This ideological foundation is sand. It's not real. That's where the frustration comes from, because we see what the media tells us about the world, and we see the world, and these things are no longer even in the same room. They're not on the same planet anymore. The good thing is that reality is where we live. The media can say whatever they want, but reality cannot be suppressed. Reality is the place that we all live, and while they can control our perception of it, they cannot control it itself. And so these things are going to become apparent No matter what, they may not cover them, they may bury the coverage, but they will become more and more apparent to more and more people in your everyday life. And as that happens, it is going to become unignorable what's going on. And eventually, I think that's going to lead to the collapse of this ideological foundation, and people are going to start to demand that the government, the policies, the media starts to actually reflect the world that we live in. I think that is what makes what we're doing inevitable. When I started this 4 years ago, it was a totally different conversation. When I started the show, when I got red-pilled 5 years ago, totally different conversation. You couldn't say white, you couldn't say black crime, you couldn't say any of this stuff. Now it's becoming a little bit more acceptable. 5 years ago, nobody wanted to say the things that I was talking about, 13 to 50 and this and that. And now these problems are just so in your face that we've come so far in terms of being able to talk about these problems. And that will continue on into the future. I saw even Katie McHugh. Do you remember her? Or was it not Katie McHugh? What the hell's her name? Who is that one from South Africa? It's mixed something. What's her name? Let me pull it up on my Telegram. Katie Hopkins. Katie Hopkins, who is a alt-right, intellectual dark web, white, female personality. I think she's from South Africa. She posted on Gab today. She said, "Why are Jewish leaders making it so hard for us? We've stood with you, but now Jewish leadership opposes Gab, and I tried to pass this bill against Muslim something in Europe, and it was the Jewish rabbi that got me banned from the country. Why are you doing this to us?" And she's one of your classic philo-Semitic, right-wing e-celebrities who is surrounded by Jewish influence, Jewish money, Zionist influence, somebody who has spoken so highly of the Zionists and they're our closest ally and so on. But even she, and she's one of the biggest ones like that, even she on Gab is forced to reckon with the fact that who are the institutional forces you're coming up against when you go against immigration, when you go in favor of free speech? Who is blackballing Gab in the halls of Congress? It's the Republican Jewish coalition. I'm not making that up. I didn't pull that from the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I pulled that from the mainstream media. It's what they are. It's what they call themselves. They're open about it. I mean, who called for me to be banned from all social media? Zionist Organization of America. Who said Tucker Carlson's show has got to go? Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL. Who's been trying to get me banned ever since January 6th? SPLC.